is great.
We got 25 minutes. We got to go.
Hey!
Happy Wednesday.
We're going to get the camel. We are going to get the camel to go.
People, this is, put it on your list. This is absolutely going to happen. Happy Wednesday, Say That Nation. Hump Day.
Hump Day. We're super excited for all of you to be on with us today. And so for those of you that are new, and for those of you that have been with us for a while, we just wanted to remind you that we are here to talk about all things ugly come up, right? So we all know what it's like to come from nothing and have this massive success. But what happens in the middle? What happens during that ugly come up? And we are unapologetic in how we talk about that between ourselves and with the guests that we bring on to help you guys with your businesses.
Absolutely. And guys, for every one who isn't, again, a family, somebody who's been here before, when we have guests on, there's usually, an intense first half where we're listening to them, we're hearing their stories. But in most instances, because of the limited time, we have to move to our overtime segment. And the beautiful thing about that is we have a platform set up through Patreon where, as long as you click on the link, which I think is in the comments, or I know it's in the description for the video, guys, you guys can take part of that for $4, $8,
$10,
and thank you, and $20. Thank you, Janelle. And it's simply by clicking on the link, guys. So you don't have to miss a minute. That segment is also live. But for everyone that we've had on in the past, all of the guests that we've had, their segments are recorded on Patreon. So you can click on that link and go back and catch anyone. I know we had an amazing show last week with JAON, and he had a lot of people who wanted to hear that second half. And I think Janelle and I discussed it yesterday. We're actually going to throw that half up, that second half, with Jay out for his fans so that they can hear the knowledge that he was dropping. But for everybody new, again, if you want to see the second half of the conversation, guys, just make sure you click that link and get yourself set up.
All right. Wow. So now that we're all caught up, I'm excited about today.
Today's going to be a good one. All right. First, if you are new, guys, we're still in our MLM March Madness series. You are all, like Janelle said, all things unapologetically network marketing this month. And I'm incredibly excited because the people who I know we have as guests today are definitely going to bring that heat. So let's get to that question and bring them on.
Boom. Today's question is it possible to build your network marketing business as a couple?
I know everybody out there like boot up like, ooh, there we go.
That is a great question. Can it be done? Would you like it to be done? Is it possible?
So who do you got answering today, Jay?
So we're really excited to bring on a boss of a couple, talk about #couple goals. They have built several businesses, but including a network marketing business that we're going to get into. Both of them are coaches in their own right. They're visionaries. They're like leaders in the field, top sought after speakers. I mean, it is just truly, truly an honor to have with us today Keia and Josh Valentin.
Our next guest.
You have no idea how limitless you are when you don't care what other people think or say about you.
Okay. Hey!
Hey!
The intro says it all. You guys have lived a lot of life.
Yeah.
You have lived a lot of life.
I love how it builds up, but it's like legacy creators, and then baby one, baby two. I love watching that. It really is like visually watching your story. And so I would love if you guys could start off by telling us just that, a little bit about your story, how you guys came to hear about network marketing, what was going on in your lives then, how did that conversation sound with the two of each other as you started to decide to make this one of the businesses that you were going to take on? Just kind of like your mindset, where you guys were.
Okay. So first off, my mom did network marketing, so I was already familiar with the industry. So when Josh brought it to me, when we were still, I was shipping out. I was in Norfolk, Virginia at the time, and he brought it to me, and it was a no-brainer for me because I already understood the industry, and then I absolutely love traveling the world and stuff like that. So for me, it just made sense. But at the time when we actually saw when he shared it with me, we were actually dating, and we were boyfriend and girlfriend at the time. So it wasn't that we originally decided together. That kind of happened as time went on.
Yeah, for sure. So we went to a maritime school. That's where we met. I had got recruited to play football there, and I studied business there, international business. Keia was studying naval architecture. And long story short, we became college sweethearts. And like she mentioned, she was shipping out at the time. I was working as a maritime captain, and I had enrolled Keia. She was one of my very first signups.
Yes.
And we just kind of hit the ground running. Keia shipped out for a few months, so I really went all out massive action my first few weeks. And I started to get some traction, and it was just an incredible run. And long story short, what really led us to our success, our initial success, is within the first 2 years, we were kind of like building part-time or whatever the case may be. And when I was 24, Keia was around 24 at the time, and we had retired from the workforce and went all in on network marketing. And we've never worked for anyone since then. And it's just been an incredible journey. Like, it's taken us all around the world. I've been to all the wonders of the world, all the continents, and just have helped a lot of people along the way also do that. And today we live between New York City and the Bahamas. We did have 3 kids in 3 years. So we always joke and say that we had a little too much time freedom. And today it's been heaven on earth. It's been an incredible ride so far. And we're just so blessed to be able to serve the people that we serve and to be able to really do this work in network marketing. So,
yeah.
All right, so hold on before Janelle, because I know she has a bookload of questions. We are familiar with you guys prior to you guys being guests on the show, and I've heard your story before to some degree, but there are aspects of it that you just brought up, and I always wanted to ask. You guys weren't a married couple prior to doing it,
right?
Josh, you talked about building it while Keia was off. Was there a part where, granted, she was involved, but wasn't really actively building, running, that the success you had helped motivate her, or what was that? The other thing I have to ask is, she was the top position, or like you made some other calls first?
So she was actually the second person I believe I signed up. The second or third person I signed up. Yeah, and she was pretty much a no-brainer. Like, she knew, she was all in from the moment I showed her. And while she was shipping out, I was actively building the business. So I had built a substantial team, and fortunately, she was positioned where she was able to benefit from a lot of that growth. So by the time she came back from shipping out, she had something to work with, and we had launched our business right away. We had an apartment in New York City, and we did like a housewarming. And during that housewarming, everybody thought they were coming just for a housewarming, but we're network marketers. We were amateurs. Yeah. So we just pulled the trigger on it and had a launch presentation, if you will, with everybody who came.
It was packed.
Yeah, it was packed out. And that's when Keia like really launched her business from that initial housewarming event.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
wow.
let me just say, when I came back, I started going to the trainings and different things like that. So I started to see it for myself. And we both had separate businesses. So, you know, some
Okay.
people call it separate centers, separate accounts. So while Josh was building his, I was also building mine. And we were both pretty successful building it on our own.
Yeah.
So we decided to partner later on. Yeah.
Yeah. For
Oh,
sure.
very cool. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
That is so interesting. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's get into the actual question, right? We've only got 25 minutes. So can you actually build this with your spouse? I mean, I find it's so interesting is that you guys talk about that you went from dating, right, and then engagement to being married. So you can actually speak to all areas.
Aspects of relationships.
Yeah. So my first question is, did it feel different at any point in time between being just dating to now you're a spouse? Does it feel different as you guys build?
Yeah, for me, definitely. It when you're accustomed to building something on your own or doing things a certain way, and you come together with someone else, a marriage alone is a lot of work. Imagine being married and also being a couple. It's like, you know, in this business, we have a lot of time we spend together, a lot of work we do, and all of that stuff. So it's definitely some things that I would probably recommend for people that decide if they want to build as a couple or not, because I genuinely don't believe everyone can. And we can definitely shed some light on what we've been through. You know, we keeping it real here on the show, right?
That's right.
And so we could definitely speak to the ups and downs and what I feel like, and what I'm sure Josh feels like, people can implement, or things they should do ahead of time before they make that big decision, because that's a huge decision. Just like any partnership, who you get into partnership with is a big decision. Yeah.
I would say that for me, it's like when we're in harmony and we're working cordially and we're leveraging each other's strengths and we're supporting, it can be beautiful. It can be amazing. But it could also be one of the most challenging things that you ever have to do in your life. And it has been very, very challenging. And that's just the real deal, Holyfield.
I see the pain in his eyes.
Yeah. I'm not even going to
You
try
see him
to
looking, he's like looking off, having questions right now.
Yeah, I'm not even going to front. I'm not going to front. I'm not going to try to, you know, have people thinking that it's this perfect picture, because it's really not. Even till this day, we're still figuring it out.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and I know for me, I feel like I went wrong in the relationship. I had issues with shutting it down. So I'd be on business mode all the time. And sometimes when you're so obsessed and you're in business mode, you forget that you have to become a spouse, right? You have to be a spouse, and you have to turn on or put on your spouse hat, right?
Yeah.
So that was one of the challenges, just talking to Keia. And for me, it's like, there's no gray area. Like, business is business. When we're dealing with business, there's no, you know, oh, well, I'm going to cater to our marital needs. Like for me, it's, we got to win at all costs. So I have a certain way of going about business. She has a certain way of going about business.
Right.
And when we decided to go 50-50 on our businesses, because that was the best decision at the time, obviously that created a lot of friction, because we had two different approaches to going about the business, and let alone having children. You can only imagine.
You throw kids in the mix, it's like it's just a recipe for chaos, for sure. Yeah.
And I would say, if there's any, knowing what I know now, right? Like we've learned a lot along the way. Knowing what I know now, I wouldn't have had so much pressure. I wouldn't have put so many demands, because I feel like when women have children, we can't really we don't understand. We can't conceptualize what it's like to go through motherhood, what it's like to go through postpartum and all of these different things. First trimester, third trimester, Braxton Hicks contractions. Like it's a different ball game. And us as men, we'll never understand that. And when you take on a 50-50 mindset, it's not a good approach. As a man, I do believe that you have to know how to lead your family, right? And not to say that women are less than or anything like that. When the idea, though, is you can't expect for your wife to put in 50% of the effort and she's in baby making mode, right? It's just unreasonable. It doesn't make any sense. But of course, for me, I'm like, hey, can you even at least just put an hour, you know, help me please, you know, I'm out here drowning, you know, let's put your team on my back. And I would just say that, like, having unreasonable expectations, you've got to adapt with the times. There's times where Kia's on fire, right? But then she's also a mother, and you've got to take that into account. So the different layers of parenthood, of being married to someone, like, you can be in a relationship but you don't have any children. That's a completely different dynamic. So we speak from the standpoint of building as a dating, right? Dating is cool. She did her thing, I did my thing, and it was just all good.
Doing it, and we're still doing it, but just in a different way.
Absolutely.
We had our own, I guess you could say, like, our own way of going about stuff.
Absolutely. And then when you throw marriage in the mix, now you're splitting finances, and you have that element to how you go about things, right? And then, of course, when you have children, it's exhausting. It is what it is. It can be very, very exhausting. So you have to really count on one another and leverage each other's gifts and abilities so that it can truly work. But to answer your question, it's yes and no. Like Keia said, we don't think everyone can do it, because there was a point in time, like, we almost didn't even make it.
We didn't think we could do it.
Yeah, like we almost didn't even make it with our whole situation. It was a really tough time, right? And especially having 3 children back to back, we were overly ambitious, and we paid the price.
Business and in family life, for sure. You know, when you're single and maybe you don't have kids and stuff, it's different in terms of like obligations and stuff like that. I do feel like when you have like 3 little kids running around, it's just like you have to, because that person is not just your partner but also your spouse. Maybe if they're just your partner, it's like you also have to find what works in that area too. And sometimes it may be one spouse taking on a little bit more because the other one is taking a little bit more in family life and stuff like that. So as a spouse, I do think it's great to talk about things before and after any big transitions. And every child you have is a different transition. It's not just because you have 1, 2, 3, it's just one. No, it's when you, as you add, you also have to have those conversations as well.
Definitely.
So something that you guys have been saying that, like, like, I've heard this several times, is this identification of like what the other person is good at, right? How did you guys figure out like what the other person was good at? Like, because sometimes you're like, oh, I'm good at this, so you should be good at this, like, right? But like, how did you figure that out? What each strength was?
I kind of look at the times where we were at our best. I feel like we do work better separately. So we live between New York City and the Bahamas. And when I'm, like, for instance, in New York City and she's in the Bahamas, she's doing her thing, I'm doing my thing, it just works better that way. Or when I'm traveling on business, it just works really, really well for whatever reason. And for me, I'm very consistent. Like, I'll oil and I'll take care of the nuts and bolts, and I'm like the maintenance guy. Like, I'll chip away every single day, nonstop, never taking a day off, always super disciplined. And Keia is, when she comes in, I'm like, it's a storm.
The crazy recruiter person. It's like, it's just something I feel like as you do things, you figure out what you're naturally good at. And, you know, not unfortunately, in some instances where it's just you, running a business by yourself, you kind of have to take on the role of everything, right? Until you possibly could find other people that are good at what you're not good at. I feel like with a relationship, sometimes you find people that are good at different things. Sometimes they're good at both things, and they may still need some help or I guess training themselves to get good at something they're both not good at. Like somebody always has to either take that role, or you have to figure out how to be that one man or one woman show. So
yeah, for sure. And I would just say for me, I've been really good at solidifying community and culture, and
really
I'm a community builder.
Yeah.
I'm a leader builder. Keia is really good at building leaders as well. But that's where I thrive the most when it comes to just the mentorship, the guidance, building the culture, and just staying consistent with it day in, day out, no matter what. And I get to benefit because Keia is an amazing recruiter. She's amazing also at duplication. So when she comes, I have to like give space for her to just kind of do her thing, because I know she's going to make it happen. And once she brings those people in, I'm like nurturing the organization, if you will, setting up the logistics and the team trips and delegating and all that kind of stuff.
He's really good at that. Me, not so much. But I'm learning. I feel like we're both learning, you know? Yeah.
Did you ever feel like you guys got into arguments because you felt like the other person wasn't doing it the way that you wanted them to do it?
Oh yeah.
All the time.
All the time. Even now.
All the time.
Even now.
Yeah.
We're just more aware, I feel, of what, because we've had experience, we kind of build that awareness. So it still happens. It still happens. But then we have to take a step back and kind of evaluate, okay, why is this happening? What could we do to
we've had certain discussions on this, and I feel like true alphas, true alpha leaders, type A personalities, we have a little bit of a control complex. You understand? Like, because we're very decisive and we trust our own judgment. And when you trust your judgment so much, you tend to want to control things and do it your way, because you know that it'll work. It'll work. You can produce the result. So I do feel like I've had moments where I've wanted her to build it the way that I would, right? And just not understanding that like people have different natures.
We're different. We are so different. And you can trust your nature, you can trust that, whatever decisions you make, but when the other person also trusts like the decisions they will make, and you have two personalities like clashing, it can get heated for sure. And so we've just been through it all in terms of just building a family, starting from scratch, building this up and figuring out how to work together, stuff like that.
Sure.
Yeah. We're very different, but we work somehow, sometimes together.
Well, obviously, right? You've done it to a successful place, and you said that you've identified what you're really good at. As someone from the outside watching, I have seen what you guys described most recently as like maybe Keia's bringing in all these people in terms of recruitment, and then like Josh is literally cultivating what has been brought in, which makes for like a super powerful team building. Like,
absolutely.
Okay, I have a ton of questions. I feel really bad. Winston, please.
No. Well, I was gonna ask about the earlier stages, because again, you guys do have the experience of going from just dating and moving into that, that full commitment of a marriage and then a family. At that early stage, and I think this is one of Janelle's things, like if you could go back and give, I guess if advice was the thing, because I know you guys have recognized that there are people who you see that can't do it. I'm sure you've already see with a large organization, like you're seeing couples that maybe have gone separate ways and maybe had to, advise them on what to do. Again, as a business owner, because there are aspects to this, and that's why I love this conversation. There's a relationship here, but you are still running a business. So there are things and decisions you have to make.
Yeah.
What would your advice be to, if even to yourself earlier on as a dating couple, moving into that next level?
For me, I would say definitely communication, like ask the questions, things that you feel like would be a concern, because it's like as you're dating someone, you kind of figure out parts of their personality, right?
Yeah.
So it's like they have these parts of themselves that you would probably be able to pinpoint, and parts in you that you feel like maybe you guys even clash during dating, right? So now you have to think about, okay, how would this work in a business? And although it's not something that is set in stone, in order to make it work, I feel like you really have to figure out who is going to do what, and like really figure that out. Because if there's any gray area, that is something you're going to have to constantly try and figure out, which is fine because you don't know everything, right?
Yeah.
But I do think that we kind of have an idea of who we are with as a person and in a relationship. So you can kind of realize that those traits will probably carry on into the business world as well. And so I don't think we go into it like necessarily completely blind. But we all want to think that it will work out. You know, we all have this vision of what life and business with your spouse will be like and all of these things. But then when you actually get into it, you're like, okay, this is different, or this is very different from what we're used to.
Yeah. And I would just say put boundaries up, like set boundaries. You know, we don't talk business the first and last hour of the day. As soon, like the first hour of waking up, the last hour before going to bed, we don't talk business. Also Sundays, if you can make it family day, or just, you know, you guys, if you don't have children, just make it about your significant other, if you go to church or whatever. And another thing is just blocking out time in your schedule for dates, right? Like be human, go out on dates and shut it down. Don't talk business. Like get really, really good at knowing how to shut it down.
Yes, you have to.
Yeah.
And I'll just add to that. Also figuring out who you are as an individual, because I feel like when a lot of people get into business together, it's like they become one like robot, like this machine. And I think they forget, like before relationships, before business, like what did you love to do? Like how did you decompress? How did you, you know, like you have to go back to your essence and figure out like what do you enjoy? Because sometimes things are going to get stressful in life and relationships, and then you got to go back and like find who you are as that person. You don't want to get lost in the sauce of the relationship and business and everything. So
For sure.
This is good.
You guys have said so much, especially that last part, like lost in the sauce. I feel like so many, I can't speak for guys, but I feel like I've had a lot of female friends who like can totally relate to that, to just getting like lost in the relationship, and then you get lost in the business. You're like, who am I? Like, I'm just here to like please and like please everyone, but then like, how am I pleasing myself? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, you know, it really is women mostly. You know, I feel like men are more rigid in their approach to like, they're not as fluid as we are. Like they don't, like we enjoy, not saying they don't enjoy things, but I feel like when it comes to business and stuff, they're like, we're coming into a world where now we have to conform to certain things to make a business work, you know. And I feel like usually because, you know, we have just society, you know, men lead the way, lead their families and stuff like that. You fall into that in business as well. And when you have a partnership and you're so, I guess you could say society, like you're so conditioned to be a certain way. It's like when your viewpoint, or when you don't feel like you're getting your point across, or being able to have that, you know, relationship and all of that stuff. I feel like a lot of women tend to fall in line of like their husbands. You know, it's just something that happens. It's not the guy's fault. It's not the woman's fault. I genuinely think it's just like we're battling all of this conditioning, and we think we're not. But
Gender norms, all that. Yeah.
And then we gotta like go back and find ourselves again, especially after you have kids, and then be able to come back and say, okay, this is me, and we got to figure this out. So, yeah.
I think it's even Kira's point, though. Men tends to be single focused, or we can be, obviously,
right.
You know, depending on energies, masculine energy, feminine. You can be single focused. And in that, to like how Josh described his approach, it's like, you know, I'm trying to get this thing done. And for me to maybe speak about that masculine role, there's a sense as a guy, you're supposed to be the provider for your family. And
exactly.
If the buck stops with you. So if Josh doesn't bring home that bacon. You know what I mean? Who's cooking what? And
that's right.
Society, to your point, isn't out there coddling men saying it's okay you didn't do a great job today. You know what I mean? That's not what he's here is. You're a bum. You're this. You're this. So for us, in terms of that, it may come across as I don't care about you, or I don't. But I'm out here doing this for us. I'm out here again. To me, depending on wherever the relationship is, there's probably still this sense of I want to show up for my girl. I want to be able to buy her dinner you're talking about. I want to take her to date night, and I want it to be, the drive-through again. And that may come off different. And the one thing I'll say, and I know we're going over now, but
I was like, oh.
No, I know. And I have a bunch of stuff too. But the one thing I will say is where you guys have, for me, the biggest thing is that communication. And it sounds like you guys have had some very
deep,
I'll say honest, because I think a lot of people, they start out having conversations and then start to pull back. It sounds like you guys have had some very honest conversations with each other.
Yeah, oh yeah,
sure.
That's one thing we do is we have those conversations. For sure.
Definitely.
All right, do your thing, Jay. I know.
No, it's okay. I have a ton of questions. One of the things I want to get into in overtime, because we are out of time, is we all talk about having mentors and like having people to look to. I want to talk in overtime. Who are your couple mentors? Who are the people that you guys look to, like as like couples that you could go to and get advice from? Like let's dig into that.
Okay.
So hold on. I know before we go, let's do their social.
No, absolutely. So if you're looking for Keia and Josh, you can find them on Instagram. We just posted up their Instagram there. They are doing all sorts of big things. And so one of the things that you guys can be aware of, and I think we have their websites as well. Keia has the Holistic Life Coaching project. Thank you. And so if you guys want to get information, especially the ladies, right? If you want to get information just about your overall health, right, fitness, but especially wealth building, Keia is your girl. I've heard some stuff from her that I'm like, man, notes. And then Josh has his website, Josh A. Valentin, right? And so I know that he's doing a lot of things coming up. Josh, I like, there's a ton of things I know that you've been up to, including your inner circle work. And then you have like a 21-day challenge, and then like all sorts of seminars that you love to do as well. And so please go visit their Instagram. They actually do respond. They're real people. You can actually reach out to them and find them there. And we just thank you so much for taking the time to be with us here. I know if you got any value from this, please put a diamond in the chat, put a fire in the chat, like just let us know that you enjoyed what you heard today. And we're really thankful that you took the time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us.
Really
appreciate it. No, absolutely, guys. Thank you.
And so again, we are going to go into overtime. The Patreon link is in the comments. We're going to go there right now. So just hit the Patreon link, go over. We're going to talk about more questions, and we'll wrap it up here with, as always. Remember, you deserve a good life. Say that.
Have a great week, you guys.